Welcome to Truth Behind History, where we uncover the hidden stories and mysteries of the past. Today, we're diving into something truly ancient, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about early civilization. Imagine a time before the Great Pyramids, before Stonehenge, before even the first cities as we recognize them today. A time when humanity was still figuring out how to farm. And yet, in this distant past, thousands of years before writing or organized kingdoms, some group of people, built something massive, something sacred. Göbekli Tepe, the oldest known monumental temple in the world. Buried beneath the soil of modern-day Turkey lies a structure that has shattered conventional theories about early human civilization. Over 11,000 years old, Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the Egyptian pyramids by 7,000 years. That is an almost incomprehensible stretch of time. To put it into perspective, the entire history of ancient Rome, from its founding, through the Republic, the Empire, and its fall, is shorter than the gap between the construction of Göbekli Tepe and the first pyramid being built. But what makes Göbekli Tepe so important isn't just its age, it is what it represents. Archaeologists long believed that humans only started building monumental structures after they had settled down into farming communities. The idea was simple: first, agriculture develops, then civilization follows. Villages grow, people establish religious traditions, and temples come later. But Göbekli Tepe flips that entire idea upside down. This site suggests that early humans were gathering for religious or ceremonial reasons before they had even developed farming. That means that large-scale cooperation, intricate planning, and social structures existed long before anyone thought possible. It challenges our very understanding of what it means to be civilized. And yet, for thousands of years, it remained buried, hidden from history. Why? What was its purpose? Who built it? And why did they seemingly abandon it? Join me as we dive deeper into the secrets of Göbekli Tepe. What we're about to uncover may just change the way you think about the origins of human civilization. Now that we've set the stage for Göbekli Tepe's historical importance, let's talk about something even more exciting: recent discoveries at the site. Archaeologists are still uncovering new artifacts, and each new find deepens the mystery of who built Göbekli Tepe and why. Among the most fascinating recent discoveries is a painted wild boar statue, decorated with red, white, and black pigments. Now, let's take a second to appreciate just how rare this is. We're talking about pigments that have survived for over 10,000 years. That alone is impressive. But beyond its preservation, this statue tells us something critical. It suggests that the people of Göbekli Tepe engaged in artistic expression, possibly with symbolic or ritualistic meaning. And that's not all. A massive human statue, over 2 meters tall, was also discovered. This statue isn't just a rough carving, it has detailed anatomical features, suggesting that the people who made it had advanced artistic skills and a deep understanding of human form. So, why does this matter? Because these aren't just random carvings. These discoveries show that the builders of Göbekli Tepe had a complex symbolic culture. They weren't just nomads casually stacking stones. They had beliefs, traditions, and artistic expression that rival anything seen in later civilizations. What's even more fascinating is that these carvings and sculptures appear to depict more than just artistic ambition. They seem to carry deep cultural or religious significance. Some researchers believe the animal carvings and statues represent protective spirits, mythological figures, or even deities worshipped by the people who gathered at Göbekli Tepe. This changes how we view early human societies. If these people were creating large-scale religious or ceremonial sites before they had permanent settlements, then it suggests that spiritual and symbolic life may have been a major driving force behind the organization of society, not just survival, farming, or territorial expansion. And yet, we still know so little. Who exactly were the people who built this place? What did these symbols mean to them? And most intriguingly, what led them to abandon the site? As we continue exploring Göbekli Tepe, we'll look at the different theories that attempt to answer these questions. As archaeologists continue to dig deeper, both literally and figuratively, into Göbekli Tepe's mysteries, a fascinating debate has emerged. Was this site purely a ceremonial temple, as initially believed? Or was it something more, perhaps even a year-round settlement? For years, Göbekli Tepe was thought to be a sacred gathering place, used only for rituals and religious ceremonies. But new evidence suggests otherwise. Some researchers now propose what's called the residential settlement hypothesis. This theory suggests that Göbekli Tepe may not have been just a place of worship, but also a place where people lived, at least seasonally, if not permanently. Why does this matter? Because if true, it means that some of the first organized communities in history weren't necessarily founded on farming, as previously thought, but instead on shared cultural or religious practices. Imagine that, people gathering and cooperating, not because of agriculture, but because of belief systems, social ties, and possibly even trade. And this is where things get really interesting. If Göbekli Tepe was a place where people lived, even part-time, it completely changes our understanding of prehistory. Traditionally, history books tell us that human civilization began with agriculture. People settled down, started farming, built villages, and then developed religion and art. But Göbekli Tepe throws a wrench into that neat timeline. The very presence of this site challenges the long-standing assumption that economic necessity, things like food production and survival, were the primary forces that drove humans to build structured societies. Instead, it suggests that even before farming, humans were capable of complex cooperation, long-term planning, and large-scale construction efforts. In other words, civilization may have started, not in the fields, but in the temples. And that raises even bigger questions. Were early humans driven by something more than just the need to eat? Did spirituality and shared traditions play a greater role in our development than we ever imagined? As we move forward, let's take a closer look at how Göbekli Tepe was actually constructed and what its layout tells us about the people who built it. Now, let's talk about what Göbekli Tepe actually looks like. If you were standing there today, staring at the site, you wouldn't just see a random pile of rocks. You'd see massive, carefully arranged stone pillars, some towering over 5 meters tall, placed in circular enclosures. This layout isn't just impressive, it's mind-blowing when you remember that this structure was built over 11,000 years ago. The site itself consists of multiple large, circular enclosures, each marked by massive T-shaped limestone pillars. These weren't just randomly placed stones, they were carefully positioned in concentric rings, suggesting an intentional and organized design. The way these structures are arranged hints at a deep understanding of spatial planning, engineering, and possibly even sacred geometry. Now, how are these structures used? That's still up for debate. Some researchers believe that these rings served as ritualistic or ceremonial spaces where groups of people gathered for religious or social events. The size and complexity of the design suggest that large numbers of people were involved in its construction, which again raises the question, was this place a temporary gathering site, or was it something more permanent? But the layout is just one part of the mystery. What's even more intriguing are the carvings and engravings found throughout Göbekli Tepe. The site is covered in intricate depictions of animals, snakes, foxes, boars, birds, all carefully etched into the stone. Some of these carvings appear almost lifelike, while others seem to be symbolic. So what do they mean? Were these animals part of an early belief system? Were they representations of deities? Totemic symbols? Protective spirits? We don't know for sure, but what's clear is that these weren't just decorative. They meant something to the people who carved them. Some researchers believe these symbols may be linked to myths or oral traditions that existed long before written history. Others speculate that the animals could represent different clans, social groups, or even a primitive form of storytelling, perhaps recounting great hunts, spiritual visions, or shared cultural legends. Whatever the case, one thing is clear: the people of Göbekli Tepe had a deep connection to their environment, their beliefs, and each other. And that brings us to an even bigger question: how did they manage to build something this advanced, this well-structured, without the tools and technology that later civilizations relied on? As we explore further, we'll take a closer look at the challenges of constructing Göbekli Tepe and why its existence defies what we thought early humans were capable of. Now, let's step back and think about what Göbekli Tepe truly represents in the grand scheme of human history. For centuries, archaeologists and historians assumed that large, complex structures like this could only be built by societies that had already mastered agriculture and settled into stable communities. But Göbekli Tepe challenges that assumption in a big way. This site exists in a time period where humans were still primarily hunter-gatherers. That means no plows, no domesticated animals to help with farming, and no permanent towns, at least, not in the way we typically think of them. And yet, these people were capable of organizing labor, designing a massive structure, and carving intricate symbols into stone. This raises a crucial question: if Göbekli Tepe wasn't built by a farming society, what motivated its construction? What could possibly inspire a group of prehistoric people to come together and dedicate enormous amounts of time and effort to creating something this monumental? One of the most fascinating aspects of Göbekli Tepe is its religious and cultural significance. The presence of large communal spaces and symbolic carving suggests that this site played a central role in early spiritual or ritualistic practices. But here's the real twist: some researchers believe that Göbekli Tepe may have actually led to the rise of agriculture, not the other way around. Think about it, if large gatherings of people were coming together for religious or ceremonial purposes, they would have needed a steady food supply. And what's the best way to feed a large number of people? Farming. Some experts believe that the social organization required to build Göbekli Tepe may have created the conditions for early agriculture to emerge. Instead of agriculture leading to temples, what if temples led to agriculture? That's a game changer. It suggests that spiritual and cultural traditions may have been the driving force behind early civilization, rather than just the need for food and survival. This completely shifts our understanding of why humans began settling down in the first place. But with every answer Göbekli Tepe provides, it raises even more questions. One of the biggest mysteries is why it was buried. Unlike other ancient sites that were abandoned and left to decay naturally, Göbekli Tepe appears to have been deliberately covered with soil around 8000 BCE. Why would people go through the trouble of burying an entire temple complex? Was it an act of ritual closure? A way to mark the end of an era? Or was there something else, perhaps an environmental, social, or even conflict-related reason that caused the people of Göbekli Tepe to seal it off from history? As we move forward, we'll explore these lingering questions and the ongoing research that continues to uncover the secrets of this incredible site. Now, let's talk about two of the biggest mysteries surrounding Göbekli Tepe, questions that have left archaeologists scratching their heads for decades. First, why was it buried? Unlike other ancient structures that simply eroded over time, Göbekli Tepe appears to have been intentionally covered with soil around 8000 BCE. But why? Some researchers believe this could have been a form of ritual closure, perhaps a symbolic act to mark the end of its use. In many cultures, temples or sacred spaces are deliberately sealed off when they are no longer needed. But others suggest more practical reasons. Was there some kind of environmental crisis, like a dramatic climate shift, that forced its builders to move on? Or was there a social upheaval, conflict, changing religious beliefs, or the rise of a new cultural system that led people to abandon their most sacred site? Whatever the reason, one thing is clear: this wasn't a natural burial. The site was carefully and deliberately covered, which ironically helped preserve it for thousands of years, shielding it from erosion and looters. In a way, the people who buried Göbekli Tepe ensured that future generations, our generation, would one day uncover its secrets. And that brings us to another major puzzle. How was Göbekli Tepe even built in the first place? Let's put this into perspective. Some of the stone pillars at Göbekli Tepe weigh over 20 tons each. That's roughly the weight of 4 fully-grown elephants. Now, imagine trying to move something that massive without wheels, without metal tools, and without domesticated animals like oxen to help drag it. Yet, somehow, people over 11,000 years ago managed to quarry these stones, transport them up a hill, and arrange them into massive, intricately designed enclosures. How? One theory is that large groups of people worked together using simple tools, ropes, and wooden sleds to drag the stones into place. But that would have required an enormous amount of organization, labor, and time. And remember, these were supposed to be nomadic hunter-gatherers. So how did they coordinate such a massive project? Were they already more socially complex than we previously thought? Some researchers believe that Göbekli Tepe suggests a higher level of early engineering knowledge than we previously imagined. Perhaps they had methods of moving and positioning stones that we haven't yet discovered. Or maybe the answer is something even stranger. Some alternative historians have even speculated about lost techniques, forgotten technologies, or even extraterrestrial influence. While the alien theories might be a bit out there, the reality is that we still don't fully understand how early humans pulled off this construction feat. But what we do know is that Göbekli Tepe defies expectations and continues to challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations. And the mysteries don't end there. As excavation continues, new discoveries are being made, each one adding another piece to the puzzle of Göbekli Tepe. Let's take a look at what these ongoing findings mean for the broader story of human history. So, what does Göbekli Tepe ultimately mean for human history? Why does it matter? For decades, historians and archaeologists believed that civilization developed in a straightforward way. First, people learned to farm, then they built villages, then religion and culture followed. But Göbekli Tepe flips that idea on its head. This site suggests that social organization, religious practices, and even large-scale construction existed before agriculture. This means early humans weren't just surviving. They were thinking, planning, and creating long before they had permanent settlements. They came together, built something monumental, and then, mysteriously, buried it. This forces us to rethink some of our oldest assumptions about how civilization formed. Instead of agriculture leading to complex societies, what if complex societies, organized around shared beliefs and rituals, actually led to the development of agriculture? What if temples came before towns? And here's the most exciting part. Archaeologists are still uncovering new details about Göbekli Tepe. As technology advances and excavation continues, we're learning more about its builders, their way of life, and how this site connects to the broader human story. But for now, one thing is clear: Göbekli Tepe is one of the most groundbreaking discoveries in history. It challenges everything we thought we knew about early humans and forces us to ask some of the biggest questions about our past. And if you enjoyed this journey through ancient history, make sure to subscribe to Truth Behind History. Like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and check out my other videos for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.